Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron, I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. This is the Lexham Septuagint in English. The Septuagint is merely the Greek translation of the Hebrew Scriptures. We're going to go into that just a little bit. It's a very fine edition. There's not a lot of English editions of the Septuagint. Septuagint is also known as the LXX, that's of the 70, based on the letter of Aristes, an apocryphal letter that is supposedly under the Ptolemies, how the Septuagint came into being. But of course that is a apocryphal legend. It has very nice headbands and tailbands. I don't expect Sister Waldron to zoom in and see it, but it's like black and gold, has a ribbon marker. I'm so thankful they're making it. It's a thin ribbon marker. I'm glad that they're making even hardback books now, also known as cloth-bound books with ribbon markers. I'll let her go ahead and zoom in. You can get a feel for the print size. But you've got kind of like the Ross edition, as it's called, the Brenton edition that it's called. I think I've got both those. I've probably done, there's a Vulgate edition. I've probably done reviews on all those, maybe not. And even the Orthodox Study Bible, which I've done a review on, has a translation of the Septuagint as well. I found out by your comments that the Orthodox Church really likes the Septuagint. So you might say, well, what's the difference between the Septuagint and the Masoretic text? I'm glad you asked. We're going to get into that, but let me read the back of this to let you kind of know what's going on. I really like a lot of Lexham stuff. I want to do a review on the Lexham English Bible. I don't think I've done that yet. Our goal is to do them all. The Lexham English Septuagint is a new translation of the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament writings used during New Testament times and in the early church. Beautifully typeset and comfortable single column format, the LES provides a literal and transparent English version. Now, my understanding is as well, I was doing some study on this particular Bible earlier today. This is actually the second edition. They came out with it in 212, and then I came out with it again in 219, tightened up some stuff. They liked it better, different. So Ken M. Penners, the translator, PhD, McMaster University, is assistant professor of religious studies at St. Francis Xavier University in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. He's a member of the Society of Biblical Literature, National Association of Professors of Hebrew, the International Organization for Septuagint and Cognate Studies. Now, one thing I'm probably going to do a review on by itself is what I'm fixing to read to you in the introduction, because this is earth-shattering. It's something that Paul Kale said, it's something Pete Ruckman said, and it's something that, to me, the evidence as I studied it over the years has been obvious. I think David Daniels took to publication, say something similar, but I'm glad it's entering into the mainstream. And it's the fact, first of all, the letter of Aristes is not the origin of the Septuagint. Secondly, that in all probability, the entire Old Testament was never translated into Greek in a pre-Christian time. And there's some other things. There's a battle on whether the apostles and Jesus actually quoted the Septuagint. I've done some videos on that. I've got, God willing, some more coming out on that. But let me just read this, and I think this will shatter a lot of your Bible scholar, seminary education, and so-called commonly received knowledge. It's just not what happened, as is so often the case. By the way, this is extremely well done. You can see it lays flat very early. Incredible printing. The print size is probably about a 10. It does have some ghosting, has incredible margins to write. Not so much in the gutter, little, but a ton on the side, qualifying probably as a wide margin. So a lot of room to write, and has some description. You know, so the Septuagint is much shorter in Jeremiah. The chronologies are a lot different. It has 151st Psalm, also has the Apocrypha for the most part. But let me read this. This is incredible. The reality, it goes into the legend of Aristes and kind of debunks it and says, here's the reality. The reality, however, is that the various books of the LXX, which is the 70, which is Septuagint, 70, were translated by various people over several centuries, beginning in the 3rd century BCE, BC as I say, so the 200s BC. We know next to nothing about these translators, but we do still have their work. They translated not just the canonical Hebrew Bible, but also several other books, often called the Apocryphal. It goes into all this. And also, let me just speak to the Septuagint itself. They've got very few scraps of the Pentateuch in the Septuagint from beginning about 150 BC. It was the oldest. Found some in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then they have like a complete minor prophets, basically, of the Septuagint from the 1st century BC. And that's about it. And so, boy, whether Jesus really ever quoted from it, used it, probably not. I mean, there's a day of mourning in synagogues to this day for when the Septuagint was made. Now, some people say it's because it was Christian. Well, not so much. I mean, because Masoretic scholars, Christian scholars, translate the prophecies of Jesus and things. So, yeah, I mean, you can show a Jewish person Isaiah 53 from the Masoretic text, and it's like a lot of people have been converted from that. So, because the books of the Hebrew Bible were translated by different people at different times, the Septuagint is not so much a single uniform document as it is a compilation of translations, each of differing quality and philosophy. Some are relatively literal, translating word for word. Some are others fairly dynamic, translating phrase for phrase or idea for idea. Some translate similar terminology in different ways. The LXX also includes some documents that appear to have been composed originally in Greek. So any translation of this body of literature itself, largely but not entirely a translation, will end up being diverse. So here's the deal. And so I'm glad they came out, and it's affordable. I got this from Christian, but so often the editions of the Septuagint I've got in times past have been very expensive. The Brenton edition, which is kind of the standard, it's like from the 1850s, I think. And there's just not a lot done from the Septuagint. That Orthodox Study Bible is good. I need to go back and revisit that. That's still one of our more popular videos on the channel after many years. It's On the Vine or whatever they call it. So here's the takeaway of what I just read, and this is what I'm going to do a special video on, I think, is that the Septuagint, nobody or no team of scholars sat and translated the entire Old Testament at one time into Greek. Did not happen. Didn't happen. And this is what kind of Paul Cale and others have known over the years. What happened is somebody would translate maybe Genesis, somebody else into Greek, somebody else would translate Exodus, somebody else would translate, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, the Psalms. And this happened over the course, as it says, of several centuries, beginning in the 200s BC. So all the way up till probably the time of Origen, Adumentius, in the 200s, mid-200s, AD, with his hexapla that has some Septuagint readings in there. And so that's monumental. And so, you may have Genesis is literal, Exodus is dynamic equivalence, Numbers may be poorly done, 1 Kings may be poorly done, Jeremiah might be exacting, but it's using such a text, as I have a Hebrew scholar friend of mine that he says that was when the king burnt it there in Jeremiah, Jeremiah 35, 36, where the king burnt it, cut it with a penknife. And so the Septuagint is that edition, but the Masoretic text is the entire edition and that type thing. And so Daniel might be well done. The Minor Prophets may be poorly done, maybe dynamic equivalent, and over the course of centuries. And so that's monumental. So we appreciate the Lexham English Septuagint coming out. You may want to get both editions. Extraordinarily well done as far as binding and everything. As far as translation itself, I don't know. I can sit here and read it to you, compare it. We may do that comparison sometime. Not this video. This is more of this book review, but I did tangentially get this other in there. God bless. We love you. Talk with you later. See you.